We can assign effects to faders along with tools to quickly modify their attributes. Let's explore those features. If I want to run an effect on a fader, I can record that into a submaster. So I'm going to go ahead and say clear sneak enter to get everything off the stage. And I'm going to grab my front of house movers, put them at full. I'm going to put them on the singer. I want to make them yellow. And I'm going to run effect 901, which is here in my custom direct select, which is my circle around that area. So if I want to record that into a sub, it's as simple as saying select last, record, and I'm going to hit the load button on fader 6, and you'll see that that will create a sub in that spot for me. I'll hit enter. And to remove the manual information that I did to build this, I'm just going to say sneak enter and clear my command line. So let's see what this sub actually does. As I move my fader up, you'll notice that my effect starts slow and small, and as I go all the way to the top, it gets to its full size and full speed. Also being controlled proportionally is my intensity, and you can see that because the sub is the same priority as the queue, it's HTP, and so my sub doesn't take over the intensity until it has exceeded the output of the queue list. Let's go look at the fader list display. In order to do that, I'm going to use my snapshot 1 to give me a nice wide screen. And then when I add a tab, you'll notice in the displays area, there is fader list. And this gives me information about all of the content and settings for each individual fader. To grab a fader, I can say 3/6. That'll take me where I just loaded that effect sub. You'll notice that I get a graphic that looks exactly like that of the one in the fader config. And in the upper right-hand corner of that icon, there's a 1x. And that shows me that the content of this fader will take up one physical slot on the hardware. If I grab that and change it to 3x, now I have 3 faders and 8 assignable buttons that I can change their functionality. My first fader will still control the master output of that, but I'm going to change my second fader, and I want that to be effect size. And you can see that as soon as I select that, I get some modifiers. And I want my third fader to be effect rate. And same thing, I can select my minimum and my maximum. On motorized fader hardware, those will default to be at 50% of the fader's travel so that I can go faster or slower. On non-motorized hardware, you'll want to center those faders in order to take control. While I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and grab this button and set it to freeze. And I'm also going to grab this button and make it solo. I've got a couple of mappable buttons near the top as well, so I'd like to click on that button, and I want to make this a macro, and I'm going to make it 11. So now that we've set up some configuration for that fader, I'm going to hit live, and we're going to watch what happens. So I'm going to bring up my master fader, and that's going to start that effect. And now you can see as I increase my effect size fader, it's going to get much larger. I can also bring it down and make it much smaller. And similarly, my effect rate will allow me to speed it up or slow it all the way down. I'm going to put that back at 100% as well. If I hit my bump button that has freeze on it, freeze is a pause function, and that's just going to pause that effect. I can hit it again and it will resume. My solo button works much like the solo function on a sound console. So if I press and hold it, it's going to kill all the output of any other content except for what's recorded into this sub. Letting it go will restore everything else back to its previous state. And then finally, my macro 11, which was used to home all the faders, is now mapped to my load button of my fader 8. So when I hit that, I run my macro, and all of my faders go back to their home values. It's a quick way to reset all the content that I have being contributed from my faders.